Well, hi there. This is Laura from Firebird Summit, once again in Medellin, Colombia. So, today I wanted to talk about something that's come up a couple of times this week for me, which is the nature of the roles that we play in our lives. So, I've had a couple of interesting conversations where there was an innate conflict around something that someone needed to do, or that someone was being asked to do or expected to do. And when we started teasing it apart, what was increasingly clear to them was that the real challenge was around the fact that they were performing a couple of different roles in their lives that were suddenly in conflict with each other. What's interesting about this is that most of the time we navigate these conflicts and these different roles very seamlessly. We don't think anything of them, and we don't really have a big conscious awareness of the different expectations that different roles place on us. The challenge is when one role is us that comes into conflict, or we discover that we're either struggling to make a decision or we're feeling very uneasy play in their lives. Stakeholders that we're accountable, getting clarity around when these roles are in conflict. So whether the conflict is between your role as a boss and your role as an employee, or your role as a parent versus your role as a spouse, the truth is it's always useful to think about the nature of the conflict that you're facing and the roles that are driving that conflict. So I find that there are three very frequent things that help in this conversation. The first is to actually clear and identify the roles that you play generally, but that are specifically in question or in conflict with each other in at a given point in time. The second is to take a look at how have you historically prioritized those. Now, this is something that comes up a lot with parents. Parents, particularly mothers, are frequently in the habit of prioritizing their role as a mother over their role, say, as a wife. And while there's no right or wrong solution, it's usually very helpful to recognize when that is the best course of action versus when maybe it's just a habit and it should be reevaluated given the circumstances. So really getting clear on that and making sure that you're not inadvertently shortchanging a role, but that if you're making a consistent choice to prioritize one role over another, you're doing that consciously and with a very clear awareness of why that is and what that means for other aspects of your life. Finally, they first begin really thinking about their roles in their life this way is, if you someone in your life who is asking you to do something that compromises or conflicts with another role, it's often useful to use the role concept as a framework to have a conversation, to be able to go to your boss and say, look, I understand what you're asking me to do here, but that is in conflict with my role as a mother or as a wife or as a boss to other people, whatever it is. Now, the truth is, not everybody's going to care. Not everybody's going to be empathetic about it. But that also probably tells you something that's very important to understand about them and your relationship with them also. But for you, it's still really useful to think about how the roles you play show up and when they run into each other. One last piece of this that I will call out is that it's extremely common for little girls to be raised to think of themselves within the context of other people. This is something that is frequently detrimental to us as we get older, but it's definitely something that I would ask that you keep in mind when you start considering the roles that you're playing. Because here's the thing, you have roles for you that are just about you. It could be as an artist or as a writer or as a feminist or as a person of faith, whatever it is, those roles might have social circles that go with them, but really those roles are for you. And if you don't make sure to acknowledge and recognize that you have roles that you need to fill for your own health and well-being, it becomes extremely easy to always prioritize the roles that serve other people over the ones you need for yourself. So self-care is quite the buzz phrase, and I hate buzz phrases, but it is really important to remember that not all of the roles in your life are about other people. So my question that you have been neglecting, and what would it take to give each of them a little bit of TLC? I will talk to you next week once again from Medellin, Colombia. Bye.